Hi, I'm Jacqui, exercise physiologist from Melbourne, Australia, and today I'm talking about finding comfort in school and within the workplace with EDS and HSD. So, finding comfort, I describe this as coming in many different forms. So, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, environmentally, and also from a sensory perspective. So, I'm going to cover off these categories as I break down the different phases of education and through the workplace. So just a quick little summary about me of why for this topic. So I have a 4-year-old son with connective tissue conditions. So I've had a lot of personal experience within the childcare and kinder settings in helping him have those supports and that comfort within those environments. I also have 6 years experience working in occupational rehabilitation, helping those with injuries and illnesses with returning to work and progressing through there. 9 years experience in corporate health and ergonomics, which is a big passion of mine, supporting all of my EDS and HSD patients with their study and work journeys. I tend to describe myself as having a very think outside the square approach in terms of trying to make all things possible. And I'd just like to thank a couple of my Australian EDS and HSD plus, so we know with all the comorbidities, my network in Michelle O'Sullivan, occupational therapist, and Pauline Slater, who is also a physiotherapist and teacher, for their input with this presentation. So I'm going to kick right off with a UNICEF document from 2021, which shows, regardless of the education level, the amount of children with disabilities who are out of school is quite alarming. So we really want to make change with this. We know COVID obviously put a real spanner in the works for a lot of young ones with attending school. But I think, openly talking about how we can support our children, our young adolescents, and even, loved ones, friends and family with working with these conditions, we can start to make a change. So hopefully the supports and accommodations I'll discuss today will help improve this attendance. So here in Australia, we have the Disability Standards for Education from 2005. So I'm sure all across the world will have your own guidelines, laws and different things that we should be able to access freely to understand where our education facilities and employment needs to align when supporting somebody with a disability. So here in Australia, these standards really protect any person with a disability who is enrolled or has enrolled in all of the different education sectors across the lifespan. And it is set out the right of students with disabilities and how education providers must help students. So I think this is where we really need to, and we can get behind advocating for our patients or clients, and also for those parents out there that this may be something that you can use to support your loved ones in their education journey. So I'm going to start off with the kinder and daycare and primary school sector first. So at this level, I guess we as parents and carers are the main advocates for our children. So teaching them and then also teaching our young ones about their conditions and ways of understanding what's going on with their mind and body, and the teachers and integration aides and support aides that are involved in their education is going to be really important. So there's this really good book here written by Michelle O'Sullivan called My Bendy Body, and it's targeted for preschool and primary age children about 3 to 8 years. And it was her vision to have children learn that even though they have a hypermobility condition, they can do lots of things, perhaps just in a modified way. So the book is based around the phrase, but I can still. And that's what we really want to enforce in all parts of the lifespan. So this can be really beneficial to, have at daycare or school, swim instructors, dance teachers, whoever we want to give it to. So it might be a really great tool for many people to use. So my real belief and philosophy is that knowledge is power. So understanding the condition as a patient, a parent, a carer, a teacher, I think is so, so important. And I really do love the school toolkit as its website, its information. So at every education level, even within the workforce, I think as many people that can understand what is happening with someone, we can then find that collaboration to look at what supports can be put into place to help somebody thrive with their health condition. So whether this is in written documents, pictures, websites, Instagram pages, we know that there is so much valuable information out there that people can keep up to date with. I really love this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I've put two here in terms of the Maslow's ones, and then one that has been created by Brene Brown as well. So the baseline is, as we can see, well, if we're not fed and sheltered, it can be difficult to progress through here, and particularly when we want to be able to learn. So this is where, so I know here in Australia, we have what's called the Breakfast Club, and that came into schools. And what we're noticing now is that before education actually starts, there is this brain food snack being implemented. So we really are fueling the body to be able to learn. But most importantly, I like to look at this, what is step number 2? And that is around safety. So if we don't feel safe in our environment, then we're not going to learn. So I think this is so important. And then from there, if we are not feeling accepted and loved and supported, we are not going to learn. If we are not feeling like we have a good social security and social network, then we're not going to learn. If we don't feel good about ourselves, it's difficult to learn. So I think this is a really important tool to remember in the background of all of the other components of life that we need to have working really, really well before we can learn. So we want to have a safe and emotionally stable environment, and then a safe physical environment before children can learn. So this is where we want children to be able to feel like they can tell their teacher anything and be believed, because we know these are invisible illnesses. They can't see what's going on. So if we want children to be able to speak up and be able to explain what's going on, so that we can then implement some management tools and strategies to help that person reduce their symptoms. We want to avoid any injury, fatigue, looking at the environmental areas and structures that they're going to be learning in, feeding assessments, and even having, say, a teacher or a lecturer or an employer learning to, really get to know that person and their symptoms so that they can read the signs. Because often, like we know, we will push through, we will pretend that there's nothing wrong, but sometimes we need that that somebody that's looking from the outside to tell us, no, it looks like you need to have a break, or you might need to move to a different area, or the like. So what will often be observed at school, and I think these visuals are really good, is there'll be bumps and bruises and trips and falls and clumsiness. There'll be this W sit position that we see in a lot of children. There'll be hyperactivity, there'll be party tricks, there'll be, flopping over, and we know our hypermobile bodies go through so much during a day. So from a teacher's perspective, and somebody will move through all of these different things throughout one entire day. So we want to be able to educate them in all of the things that they will see. And then we do know, yes, that there is sometimes that anger and aggression and frustration when these little ones don't really know how to regulate and understand what's going on with their body. So how can we support them? So I am really passionate, and I talk to all of my patients, no matter what age, about your toolbox. What goes into your toolbox? What are the tips and tricks and tools and strategies for managing? So whether this is for our younger ones, these little visuals of actually a toolbox, and they've got some stickers that they can pull on and off about what they need to put in there, accompanied by obviously those formal written agreements such as an IEP or an ILP or a 504, depending on what area of the world you're in. So in terms of our young ones, I like to look at types of school bags. So we know that carrying and that heaviness of a school bag. So if we got something that's on wheels, that's not too heavy. This blue one here, we can see the lunchbox is attached to the bag, so there's not that extra carrying. Do we have documents? So there's a copy of books at home and there's a copy of books at school, so we're not lugging lots around. What they're doing in recess and lunch breaks, where they can have their rest periods. They may need to have extra toilet breaks because of, our bowel and bladder functions, alternating our seating tasks, the different types of fatigue. So we've got to think that there is not just physical fatigue. We've got physical fatigue, mental fatigue, emotional fatigue, and sensory fatigue. So being able to help our wee ones and our teachers understand that, what might be loading their system, how we modify tests and examinations, quiet rooms, and obviously the individual relief. So from a sensory perspective, can they pack in their pencil case some salty snacks or some jelly beans or the things that they may need during the class time? This picture on the pencil case, it's what I talk about as Sims. So, a nice family picture that helps the young one be able to look at that and feel safe and comforted by remembering that they are loved and supported in any way. In terms of posture and sitting, so this first picture in the upper left corner is obviously a poor posture. So we have a lot of difficulty holding our body up. Our muscles fatigue really quickly, so we can see slumping on desk and different things like that. So you'll see a few of these. More so the device on the right-hand side is a really good option. Kiddos can wrap their legs around the side. They can cross their legs over the front of it, have their neck in a really good position, or like in this bottom left corner, have something that sits firmly on the desk so that the neck and the shoulders and the trunk are in a much better position so that these muscles aren't gripping and guarding, contributing to pain and fatigue. The foam wedges can be really great, so they can alternate from sitting on the wedges to popping the wedge under their feet, having a band on the chair or their desk for that fidgeting around and keeping that muscular contraction and proprioceptive feedback coming through the body. There's all different types of seating, and this is the picture on the right-hand side is a perfect versatility of seating in a classroom. Of children can choose where they're most comfortable, and that's what we want for them. We know unstable fingers and hands need lots of different things. So from our ring splints to pens to grips to spring-loaded scissors, we want to try and make things a little bit wider in terms of gripping so that we haven't got these unstable joints. But if we need splints or supports, that's really important here. And OT consultation, occupational therapy consultation, is also really important. Alternate seating and regulation is really important. So this is where we love So peanut balls, because they're quite versatile in terms of being able to sit on them, lie on them. My little boy loves having the ball rolled over the top of him as he's relaxing and lying on the floor. It can be a really good way of calming the nervous system, calming what's going on. But different ways of learning. Bean bags are also a really great way. So it gets the body into this flexed position and helps to just down regulate those extensor muscles that have been trying to hold us up. There's some great lap weighted toys. So the dog, for example, or I love this sensory one. So you've got the weighted lap, but then there's also the fidgets on top of it as well. Having standing stations, so that ability to change position across the day so that they're not stuck in one spot all the time. I'm just going to, so this particular slide is just about exercise and movement, so these are just some fun games that could be played within the classroom at recess to help change things up for a hypermobile kiddo. But we want to also ensure that this is under the guidance of an occupational therapist, physio, or exercise physiologist, particularly if the person has joint subluxation and dislocation. So we want them to be safe. So in terms of body supports, there's lots of compression garments, again, full body splinting, upper body splinting, lower body splinting that can happen in terms of managing dysautonomia type symptoms as well as pain from an EDS and HSD point of view. Communication styles can be really difficult in this area, as we know there is commonly some neurodivergent type personalities that can coincide with these conditions. So I know my little boy loves pictures and being able to point, and we know that they can get overwhelmed really quickly. So where, children or students can't express it in words, they might be able to work with different colours and phrases or pictures. And this is also in terms of helping them understand the routines of a day, and if things are going to happen, they can see what's happening. So in terms of secondary school, so this is the high school years here in Australia. So this is a whole new world of challenges to navigate. So new places, friends, communities, different classes, different teachers, workloads, potentially somebody starting work, using electronics, and all of these sorts of things. So moving into a whole new world. So I find overall strategies for schooling, as I mentioned earlier, the ensuring teachers are educated about an individual's condition. And I find having a document or diagram of what the individual's triggers and the specific management strategies are for. And this is where I really love Professor Jane Simmons' spider diagram. And as you can see here is, so under fatigue, so what are the things that can trigger fatigue? And then on another document or under there, we can also have, well, what triggers it, but what management strategies there are. And then that way we've always got a document to refer back to ensure that we are able to manage each individual. So we know that there are emergencies that can happen within the school. So this could be if there is a fire drill or something like that going on, but if there is an emergency where the student themselves feel like they need to go to the sick bay or to the nurse, having a student walk with them, or the teacher having to take them themselves, so we don't want them going alone. Different expectations, shorter assignments, limiting homework. And I really ask teachers to focus on the most relevant information that somebody will need in their secondary school years. So not trying to take everything in. Assessments only if necessary. They may not be able to take a lot of notes, so whether it's having a buddy that they can take a copy of their notes, or have the teacher provide some additional notes from there. Leaving class early just to avoid the noise and people running around in the corridors, so that they can get to their next class much more safely. Or there's things like Scribe, or, the technology that we have today around Google Read and Write, Drag and Dictate, Live Scribe and the like can be really good. If someone's absent for long periods, we want to still have them feeling included. So work to be sent home, and video calls with the class to stay connected. This was a really lovely thing my son's daycare did when he had a recent surgery, and he was so excited to see his little friends, and it really put a smile on his face. So I think if teachers are able to have that moment to do that, it can be really good. And when returning to school, focusing on attendance is important. So it might just be over recess for social connections initially, and subjects that they're interested in, rather than having them do everything at once. And we gradually increase that attendance over time, or some students may do some homeschooling or virtual schooling and then being present. Just that social connection is really, really important. Physical considerations again, so it's the postures, the seating. If there's long periods of standing or sitting in assemblies or fire drills or anything like that, then we want to try and have accommodations around that. Elevating their feet or fidgeting, gentle walking breaks. They might go the long way around just to move the body. A little bit of extra time for digestion around meal breaks. And if with physical education and sport, we want to make sure that there's the modifications, or if somebody can't participate in a particular sport that might be going on that day, that student is given an alternate role as an umpire or an assistant, so they're still being included. Compression, we know, is really important. Hydration, in the extremes of summer and winter, the indoor programs, or having heat packs and all of those sorts of things, and keeping our what I call a go bag, so the things that you use quite regularly in terms of salty snacks, jelly beans, like the Vitacium range, for example, where you can handle that. And then just some environmental considerations in terms of smells, perfumes, and other substances, lights and noise sensitivities. Just quickly jumping over to university and college, again, there is a whole new world of things to consider. So do we want to look at somewhere that's more close to home, if possible, full-time versus part-time load, researching new healthcare team and medical team, living on campus, single room, heating, air conditioning, all of the things that we want for that person to be able to succeed at this next independent level of their lifespan. The considerations for assessments, assignments and exams, the more we can forward plan that over the whole semester or term, we know that where we might need to apply for extensions or considerations to help support that person so they're not overloaded. We want to, again, recording of class. There's lots of good devices out there. I really love this Live Scribe, where it can be writing parts of it, but just click that button and the session is recorded. But from most universities now, a lot of lectures are recorded, and you can get the lecture notes before the class, so that it's a bit easier to take notes. Ergonomics, as I mentioned before, we must have a proper ergonomic setup, and that's from either where we sit or whether we've got sit-stand desks. The body's not designed to sit for long periods, nor is it designed to stand for long periods. So standing maximum 20 minutes, and then obviously we want to be changing postures from a needed perspective as well. So these are some good graphics here. And the chair is the centre of your setup. So if we can't have our chair at the right height, then we can't really set things up really well around that, from neck and shoulder positioning. And there's lots of different equipment out there that can support you, from a footrest that has an installed foot raise, rather than a flat mouse, an upright mouse, document risers, shorter keyboards so that the arm isn't too far out from the body, from the numerical keypad, and even some proprioceptive feedback from some supports as well. Within the workplace, return to work plans can be really good, and we do this in very, very small phases. So we always want a return to work plan to outline some duties, return to work plan considerations and inclusions, which is travel as well, quiet room to take rest breaks, again, ergonomics, default diary where breaks are set in so that we can't overwork. And I always talk about progression with return to work is through stages, not weeks, because we know that symptoms might take a while to stabilise through each phase or stage, rather than us, being forced to progress from week to week to week when the body's not able to keep up. And we want to ensure that there's a stable sleep pattern, exercise routine, looking after family, having some social connection before we're progressing those things as well. We want a really healthy work-life balance. So other return to work considerations, as I mentioned, the travel, socialising, breaks, no meetings back to back, heavy deadlines, and all of those sorts of things can really help somebody with their return to work. I've listed quite a few references here, and thank you for listening.